You know that specific kind of anxiety you get when you're just, I don't know, scrolling through the news?
Hmm.
It's not really about the specific headlines anymore, is it? It's not about who won what or the latest inflation numbers. It's a deeper thing.
It's a low-level hum of unease.
Yeah. A sneaking suspicion that even with all the debates, all the shouting,
Huh.
the steering wheel isn't actually connected to the tires.
And that disconnect is, well, that's exactly what we're trying to wrap our heads around today. It's the feeling that the things that really shape your life, the cost of housing, job security, are running on a logic that, I mean, no politician seems able to even touch.
Right. And that brings us to the stack of sources we're digging into. We're doing a deep dive on the GOA research papers, specifically 13 and 14.2. And what I found so compelling is that they take that vague anxiety we all feel and give it a really specific mechanical explanation
It stops treating the country like a story of good guys and bad
and
guys.
starts treating it like an engineering diagram.
Exactly. And I think we need to put a little disclaimer out there before we really get into the weeds. This is a structural analysis. The sources are very clear on this.
Okay.
We aren't here to say corporations are evil or politicians are weak. We're trying to look at the United States and really the other major powers as if they were operating systems.
Like computer code, not political parties.
Precisely. Because the core question here is a heavy one. It suggests we need to stop asking if the U.S. has a healthy economy and start asking something else.
Which is?
Is the United States a democracy that uses a free market, or has the free market actually become the government?
The governing OS.
That's the concept. And it means we have to do something difficult, which is just suspend judgment for a bit. We're wired to look for a villain, it's greed, it's incompetence. But these papers argue that's just. It's too simple.
So we're just observing the machine, looking at the blueprint.
We're the alien engineers just analyzing the physics of the system.
Okay, so let's look at that blueprint. The papers talk about a phase transition. To get what that means, we kind of have to define what the OS used to be. And the analogy they use, which I found really helpful, is the garden and the gardener.
Right, the classical model. This is how we thought about it for most of the 20th century. The state, the government, is the gardener.
And the market is the garden.
Exactly. The garden is wild, it's energetic, it grows fruit, but it also has weeds, it has thorns. And the gardener's job is to prune, to plant, to build walls, and keep pests out. The state contains the market.
So the government sets the rules. If the market starts dumping sludge in the river, the gardener steps in.
Yes. The gardener says no. The state is a future designer. It has a vision for what the garden should look like in 10 years.
We want highways, we want a middle class, we want to go to the moon.
And it uses the market as a tool to get there. But what these sources argue is that we crossed a threshold. The complexity, the speed, it all hit a point where that relationship didn't just change, it inverted.
The phase transition.
Think about it.
Yeah.
The market got so fast, so financialized, so plugged into everything that it stopped being a garden inside the state.
It became the environment itself.
It became the weather, it became gravity. You can't really garden a hurricane, can you?
No, you can't. So the government isn't the gardener anymore.
In this new OS, the state's been, it's been demoted. It goes from future designer to what the papers call a catastrophe avoidance system.
That phrase, that really stuck with me. Catastrophe avoidance system.
It explains so much about why politics feels so reactive now. It's like our leaders aren't steering toward a destination anymore. They're just frantically trying to avoid icebergs that pop up out of the fog.
Because they don't have a choice. This is a crucial part. The engines of the ship, the market, are running on a computational logic that is millions of times faster than, legislative logic.
A committee hearing versus a high-frequency trading algorithm.
There's no contest. The market creates a reality, and the state is just holding on, trying to keep the whole thing from sinking. This gets to that idea of runaway optimization. It's a bit technical, but the basic idea is the system is now optimized for just one thing, above all else.
Growth. But a very specific kind. Financialized growth. The source code says growth equals justice. If the line goes up, everything's fine.
And to keep it going up, you need to turn more and more things into assets you can trade.
Which leads to asset concentration, which leads to social anxiety.
But here's the part that I want to drill down on. Why can't we just stop? I mean, if the train is going too fast, why can't the government just say, okay, pause, let's fix housing, let's fix healthcare, then we'll speed up again?
That is the terrifying stop and you die dynamic, and I think this is the hardest part to really internalize. In this OS, Stopping is not the same as resting.
Okay.
If the U.S. market stops growing, even for a little bit, it doesn't just sit still.
It collapses because of all the debt, the leverage.
Exactly. The whole system, pensions, payrolls, everything, is built on the promise of future growth. If that stalls, capital doesn't wait around. It flees instantly. Credit ratings crash. Companies go bankrupt. The system needs constant acceleration just to stay upright.
It's like a shark. It stops swimming, it drowns.
And that biological imperative is what makes it a governing OS. It dictates our choices. So if a politician proposes a policy, let's say something morally good, like a new labor law, but it threatens to slow down the processor speed of the market.
The market punishes the whole country. Immediately. Stocks tank, borrowing gets expensive.
And the policy dies. Not because the politician is evil or because of donors necessarily. It dies because the OS flashes an error message, incompatible with survival.
So we have to feed the beast, or the beast eats us.
It's a deterministic loop.
Now, usually when we talk about this, we assume it's just, a Western capitalism problem. But the comparison the sources make between the U.S. and China is...
It's wild, the marathon analogy. And it totally upends the usual democracy versus authoritarianism debate. The papers say, structurally, they are both trapped in the exact same runaway optimization.
They're both running a marathon where if they stop, they die.
Correct. But the source of the pressure is different. And so where the system eventually breaks is different.
Okay, let's break that down. Start with China. What's chasing them?
In China, the pressure is internal. It's institutional. The Chinese Communist Party is described as this hyper-competitive corporate ladder. Local officials are in a cutthroat race for growth targets.
So it's not the stock market watching, it's Beijing.
It's the party structure. If an official there stops pushing, they don't lose a bonus, they get purged. The whole system becomes rigid because everyone is terrified of slowing down.
So when China breaks, it's an implosion, an institutional rupture.
Yes, the hierarchy itself snaps. Now, contrast that with the U.S., our race is external.
Market competition.
Right. Our success is measured by stock price, by yield, by efficiency. If a U.S. company decides to stop maximizing profit to, say, take better care of its workers, it doesn't get purged by a dictator.
It gets eaten.
A competitor buys it out or investors sue the board. It's survival of the fittest on steroids. But here, and this is the chilling part, here's the key distinction. While China's system breaks the state, America's system breaks the society.
Say more about that. Breaks the society.
Well, think about what our growth engine needs for fuel. It's already monetized land, labor, attention, so eventually it has to start eating into what the papers call the living sphere.
It's stuff we need to survive.
Housing, food, water, social stability. It starts treating those things as just raw material for financial yield.
It cannibalizes the host?
The market doesn't hate people. It's just,
Yeah.
it's indifferent. It just needs their data, their rent, their anxiety to keep the growth curve going up.
That is the perfect transition because I wanted to make this feel less abstract.
Yeah.
The sources give a very specific example of this cannibalization. They talk about the Blackstone model.
Yes. And again, suspending judgment. We're not calling them bad. They're just a rational actor doing what the OS rewards. But look at what's happened to housing.
Housing used to be shelter, a place to live, a utility.
Right. But under this OS, large institutional investors reclassified housing from shelter to financial asset class.
They realized single-family homes were an under-monetized asset.
So they bought up whole neighborhoods, turned them into rentals, and applied algorithmic efficiency to maximize the rent.
I've read about this. The algorithms can push up rents across an entire city at once because they all use the same pricing software.
That is optimization. It's legal, it creates shareholder value, the OS loves it. But for the human, the market is now deciding who gets to live where, based purely on yield.
It feels like a line was crossed. It's one thing for the price of TVs to be optimized. It's another thing for the roof over your head.
That feeling that this is wrong sensation in your gut, that is what the sources call a breach of L4.
The world membrane.
The world membrane. It sounds sci-fi, I know, but it's really a sociological concept. It's the layer of shared invisible beliefs that hold a society together.
And for America, for the last 50 years, that belief was,
The market is neutral.
a rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly. We implicitly trusted that if you let the market do its thing, it would work out for everyone. We believed rational investment wouldn't destroy society. There were guardrails.
But when housing becomes unaffordable because it's efficient for a portfolio, that trust shatters.
The premise breaks, the membrane tears. You realize the market is not neutral, and the sources say this is an irreversible change.
Why irreversible? Couldn't we pass laws to ban corporate ownership of homes?
You can change the laws, yes, that's reversible, but you can't reverse the loss of trust. Once people realize the governing OS is capable of eating their shelter to feed a spreadsheet, the psychological safety is gone forever.
You'll always look at the invisible hand with suspicion.
And the state is left holding the bag, trying to manage the anger. It's not building a future anymore. It's just a risk manager.
Which explains so much of the rage we see. It's not just a disagreement on policy. It's a realization that the system's success could actually mean our failure.
Precisely.
So we have the U.S. and China in this stop and you die race. Is the whole world locked into this trap? Or are there other ways this plays out?
This is where the GOA papers give us this incredible map of dysfunction. It turns out failure is asymmetrical.
Asymmetrical failure. I like that. We're all breaking, but we're breaking differently.
Exactly. The U.S. and China are in the running too fast quadrant. But then you look at, say, the European Union.
The EU, yeah, every time I read about them, it's a new regulation, a new fine, a new privacy law.
And that is their OS. The sources call it normative overload. To use the car analogy, if the U.S. is a car with the throttle stuck open and no brakes.
The EU is a car with 10 brake pedals.
10 brake pedals and a committee that has to vote before you can even turn the key. They're so obsessed with the framework, the ethics, the rules, that they often just fall into paralysis.
So they avoid our problem of social erosion.
They do, but they have stagnation. They can't innovate at speed. They preserve the garden so carefully that nothing new can grow in it.
What about Japan? The papers had them as a unique case.
Japan is inertia, a quiet hollowing out. Japan basically stopped. They stepped off the treadmill years ago, but the system pretends it hasn't.
The Galapagos effect.
Right. High social cohesion, so they don't have the explosive anger of the U.S., but they're slowly fading, a comfortable slow-motion decline.
This comparison is actually really helpful because we tend to just think the world is crazy, but the crisis isn't synchronized.
That is the key insight. The U.S. isn't suffering from too much regulation like the EU or stagnation like Japan. We are suffering from hyper-efficiency.
We're too good at the wrong things.
Our system is so perfectly designed to optimize for capital that it has become incompatible with human stability.
That is a vital distinction. We're not broken because we're incompetent. We're broken because the system is doing exactly what it was designed to do, just way too well.
It's a feature, not a bug, and features are much harder to fix.
Okay, so let's try to pull this together. We have the U.S., where the market has become the governing OS. It's a machine demanding infinite growth to stop itself from collapsing.
And to get that growth, it's begun to consume the social fabric: housing, stability, trust.
And we've crossed this world membrane. People no longer trust that the system's outcome will be good for them.
It's a sobering picture.
It really is. It reframes how you watch the news, you see a new policy, and realize it's not just a person's decision. It's the OS executing a command to keep the processor from overheating.
And this brings us to the final provocation in the papers, and I think this is where we have to leave things, because there's no easy answer. They end with two questions.
Let's hear them.
The first one is about agency. If the market is now the governor and the state is just the manager, where does freedom actually live?
Right. If all our choices are just from a menu of options that the OS has pre-approved as profitable, are we really choosing?
And the second question is the practical one, the one I wrestle with. Is it possible to live with this system without living under it?
That's the one. Can we have jobs and save for retirement and live our lives without having to internalize its logic, without becoming little runaway optimizers ourselves?
The sources don't answer that, and honestly, I think that's the point. We're in a time where we need to just observe the machine before we try to fix it. If we rush to a political answer, we're usually just pulling levers that aren't connected to anything anymore.
We're just banging on the dashboard of a self-driving car.
Exactly. So, my advice to anyone listening: don't try to solve this in your head right now. Just observe it. Look at your rent, your job, the news, and ask yourself, is this a human decision, or is this the operating system running its code?
It's a fascinating, if slightly unsettling deep dive today, where I think seeing this structure makes the chaos feel a little less random.
Clarity is always the first step, even if the view is scary.
Well said. Thanks for walking us through the schematic. And to our listeners, thanks for taking the plunge with us. We'll be back next time with another stack of sources to unpack. Until then, keep observing the machine.
Take care.